All right, so now what we're going to do now is we're going to look at equations that do have um, imaginary solutions, okay? And so we're going to look at that. Now, how do you solve this? First off, make it equal. Well, first off, got to decide which way you want to solve it. I would do quadratic formula. Okay, recall quadratic formula, negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. And I'm going to put these dorky little blanks here, or these parentheses around here. Okay, and so in those blank, you're going to plug in the values into those blanks for a, b, and c. So first, make it equal to 0. Next, let's identify a, b, and c. A is the coefficient of x squared, 1. B is the coefficient of x, -2. And c is this constant, c is 2. So what am I going to do with those? I'm going to plug these values into that formula. So negative b is -2, plus or minus the square root of -2 squared minus 4 times a times c all over 2a. Okay. Now, next thing I want to do on this is I want to simplify. So remember, simplify everything around the plus or minus. A negative times -2 is positive 2. 2 times 1 is 2. Then I'm going to simplify the discriminant here. I'm going to find the value of the discriminant. The discriminant, remember, is the value underneath the square root. So it's parentheses -2 squared. Remember, put the -2 in parentheses before you square it. Minus 4 times 1 times 2. It's -4. Okay, now let's talk about this. So you have -4 under a square root. You have a negative under a square root. Remember, that's a problem. So we got to fix that problem. How do we fix the problem? We take an I out. So we take an I out and we take out the negative. Okay. Now, square root of 4, that's nice because the square root of 4 is a perfect square. What times what gives you 4? 2. So this will end up being 2i. So I'm going to put 2i in that spot. Okay, so that worked out nice because that 4 was a perfect square. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to simplify. And so you notice these each have a factor of 2. Now, remember, when I is involved, you've got to divide each piece. Okay, you want to separate this, divide each piece by 2 because you want to separate the real part from the imaginary part. Okay, so we've got to divide each piece by 2. 2 divided by 2 is 1. Plus or minus 2i divided by 2 is 1i. And so you could say that's your answer. If you have to do a comma separated list, 1 plus I, 1 minus I. So that's my answer. Okay, either way is